from patreon.com/trouble. Keywords. So I already did a post on keywords, and I've done a whole bunch of posts where I kind of mention keywords. But the first post was just a PDF, and reading back over it, I think it could do with a video. So what is a keyword? Forgive me if any of this sounds really obvious, but a keyword is basically a string of words that a person might type into a search engine. So for example, here I'm looking at Google, and let's say I look for pizza. The results that come up are about the search term pizza. Pizza is the keyword. And why is Google showing these results? Because Google has analysed those websites and thinks that they're relevant to the search term pizza. Let's see what the results are. We've got a bunch of pizza places near me in Prestwich, because Google knows that I'm in Prestwich. We can see here it says results for Prestwich, Manchester. Google knows my IP address, I'm also logged in, so they know where I am. And the results that it's showing are, as you would expect, pizza websites. TripAdvisor, talking about pizza places in Prestwich. Wikipedia, talking about pizza. Domino's, Pizza Express. So that's a keyword. Now the search term pizza here is quite vague. Is the person looking to buy pizza? Do they want to learn about pizza? I've kind of mentioned this before. So there's a few different intentions that a person might have here. They might search for how to make pizza. And if they search for how to make pizza, you can be pretty sure that this person isn't going to buy anything. They're looking for instructions, they're not looking to make a sale. But if they search for pizza in Prestwich, you can be pretty sure here that this is someone who's going to buy something, because they're searching for pizza near them. That's a pretty strange thing to do, unless the context of what you're searching for is that you'd like a pizza to be delivered to your house. And as you'd expect, the results are pizza places near me. Whereas when I searched for how to make pizza, the results weren't anything to do with Prestwich. These are just from the cold internet, because Google knows that these aren't local search terms that Prestwich is particularly relevant for. So how does Google decide that these results should show up for how to make pizza? Well, this is getting into some really complicated kind of computer science. But a very kind of broad overview would be that Google has got a really clever system that's able to categorize websites in a way that doesn't necessarily have to specifically line up with the search terms that someone used. So here, when I've searched for how to make pizza, this first result here, homemade pizza and pizza dough recipe, if I click through, it doesn't actually say the phrase how to make pizza on here. If I search how to make pizza, you see it's gone red, it doesn't match any results. But Google knows that when you're searching for how to make something, and if that thing is a food, then recipes are the kind of results that you're looking for. And so it shows the page which is relevant for a recipe. This is simplyrecipes.com, it's all about recipes. So we can see there that even with this quite simple example, how to make pizza, the first result, and that'll be a really competitive search term, doesn't say the phrase how to make pizza on it. It instead is a page that is about how to make pizza, and Google is clever enough to know that a page that's about how to make pizza is the kind of thing that should show when someone searches for how to make pizza. I'm saying the phrase how to make pizza an awful lot here. How to make pizza, how to make pizza, how to make pizza, I'll say it a few more times. But we can see here that the third result here does say learn how to make homemade pizza, so it kind of partially matches the search term exactly. But anyway, so how does this relate to your business? Well, I suppose what it means is that Google's quite clever. So if your business is doing pizza in Prestwich, then what your website needs to do is make sure that it's really clear that you sell pizza and that you're in Prestwich. It doesn't necessarily need to say the phrase pizza in Prestwich. And if it feels awkward to say that on your website, which it might do, that's kind of a strange thing to say, pizza in Prestwich as a page title or whatever. You might want your tagline to be a bit more creative than pizza in Prestwich. So you shouldn't feel any great pressure to squeeze the phrase pizza in Prestwich into your site. Instead, you should just, like I said, make it clear that that's what you do. If you did decide, despite my advice, that you wanted to try and fit every single keyword phrase that someone might use into your website, for the pizza example, that might mean that your website says pizza in Prestwich, margarita in Prestwich, Hawaiian pizza in Prestwich, barbecue pizza in Prestwich, and so on and so on and so on, which I think would result in the content on your site reading quite horribly. Whereas instead, if you just list the types of pizzas that you do on a menu page, for example, and you describe that you're ImpressRich on your contact page and on the text that's on the other pages, Google will understand that you're a pizzeria in ImpressRich. And if you need any more persuading that you should try and write naturally rather than squeezing lots of keywords in, here's the spam policies page for Google on their documentation. And if I scroll down a bit, you'll see that they've got a section all about keyword stuffing, where they say, and let me zoom in, keyword stuffing refers to the practice of filling a web page with keywords or numbers in an attempt to manipulate rankings in Google search results. Often these keywords appear in a list or group unnaturally or out of context. Examples of keyword stuffing include list of phone numbers without substantial added value, blocks of text that list cities and regions that a website is trying to rank for, and repeating the same words and phrases so often that it sounds unnatural. For example, and then they give this example, try and think if this reads like your website content. And if it does, then bear in mind that you're doing exactly what Google's saying not to do. Their example says, unlimited App Store credit. There are so many sites that claim to offer App Store credit for £0, but they're all fake and always mess up with users looking for unlimited App Store credits. You can get limitless credits for App Store here on the website. Visit our unlimited App Store credit page and get it today. You'll see that in the example that Google have provided here about keyword stuffing, it's not that bad. Like, I see worse websites all the time that have way more keywords squeezed in, way more unnaturally than the example that Google give. Another thing that I see all the time is the second point, blocks of text that list cities and regions that a web page is trying to rank for. I see this all the time on people's websites. So you want to be trying to write naturally and describe the products and services that you do and the areas that you deliver them to without repeating them over and over. So we haven't really spoken too much here about the content of the site in terms of headings, meta descriptions, meta titles, that kind of stuff. With those, it's also easy to fall into the trap of thinking you must fit your keywords in no matter what. That isn't the case. Like we found, Google is good at determining what your page is about. So the headings and the text on your site should be written for visitors. It should be designed for visitors to really quickly understand what your site is about. Because Google is good enough at figuring that stuff out as well. Google treats your website like a visitor would. So what does that look like in practice? So if I click on this first result here for Pizza ImpressRich, Rudy's, this is a nationwide chain, they've got a whole bunch of spots. You see that the heading on their page just says, Prestwich, Manchester. If I inspect this for the nerds, you'll see that this is a heading 1, H1. The H1 is just the word Prestwich. It's not Pizza ImpressRich, it's not anything keyword stuffy, it's just Prestwich. I'm not saying that that's what your pages should be like, but again, it's about looking at the actual examples that show up on Google and deciding whether there really are these hard and fast rules. Now, despite what I said about that you shouldn't be trying to squeeze keywords into every heading, even if it doesn't read naturally, you should probably try and fit your keywords into your headings. You know, there's two sides to this coin. There's balancing the SEO benefits and there's making it usable for readers. And if you can fit a keyword into your heading in a way that reads naturally, then great. Looking at the rest of the content on this Reader's page, there's not an awful lot to it really. You know, they list the menus and they link off to Deliveroo and Uber Eats. But there's nothing specific in here that's about Prestwich. And that's because Google's taken a lot more into account for this page's ranking than the specific content that's on it. Like, this page hardly has any content on it really. You know, it's got maybe 6 lines of unique content on it. But Google knows that Rudy's is the biggest chain, the biggest name, and the biggest sit-down place in Prestwich to have a pizza. So despite there being much better options as far as I'm concerned, that have been around for longer, that are more local and independent, that someone might actually prefer, the domain name rudyspizza.co.uk has so much kudos in Google's eyes that this page can rank despite not really having any content on it about pizza in Prestwich. It's kind of unfair. There's a whole bunch of other places in Prestwich that would be better, and I think should be showing instead. But Google tries to prioritise the safest results, and the Rudy's Pizza domain name will have people mentioning it all over the UK in pretty positive terms. Actually, none of the Prestwich places are ranking that well. So what's making Rudy's rank well? Well, as we said, aside from the mentions of Rudy's Pizza all over the internet, they've also got an awful lot of Google reviews, especially considering they've only been around for less than a year. The two local places, Cuckoo and Chroma, have got more, but in the time span, Rudy's have done an amazing job of collecting so many reviews, really. So that's kind of testament to putting the effort into trying to get some good Google reviews, because it'll bump you up the rankings, even if your web, because it'll bump you up the rankings regardless of the content of your website. I'm diverting a bit from keywords here, so forgive me. Okay, I hope this has been helpful. There's so much we could talk about in terms of keywords, really. I could be going on for hours, but I think it's probably better to keep each video kind of reasonably quickly digestible. So I suppose the main takeaway from this is to remember that Google's algorithm is really clever, and they're not looking for exact matches. If you can naturally fit an exact match for the keyword that someone's searching for into the text of your website, then excellent. But don't fret too much if you can't do it. It's better instead to send lots of signals to Google that make it really clear what you do for your business and why your customer should choose you. And also, of course, to try and get lots of good Google Maps reviews from real customers. Okay, I hope this was helpful. I've put a poll in the channel for some other video ideas, so please do participate in that if you get a second. And if you enjoy this podcast, it'd be great if you could tell a friend about it. It's still bringing in hardly any income, really. And it would be nice if I could make this be a more substantial part of my wage, really. Anyway, I'm building up a library of useful guides that hopefully future subscribers will be able to use, and hopefully provides a good bit of value. Anyway, that's enough waffling. Over and out. Take care.